Principal officers emerge for 10th House of Representatives. House mandates ad hoc committee to investigate potential loss of Nigerian territory to Cameroon. And President Bola Tinubu writes House seeks confirmation of service chiefs' appointments. Fresh from a 2-week break, the House of Representatives appears set for serious legislative business, even as new members continue to settle in. Thank you for joining us on You and Your Reps on the NTA. I am Victor as we welcome. The House of Representatives has constituted an ad hoc committee to investigate within 4 weeks alleged misappropriation of 2.3 trillion naira generated from tertiary education tax by the Tertiary Education Trust Fund between 2011 and 2013. The House also announced its principal officers at resumption of plenary.
House members resumed at plenary in high spirits, with Speaker Tajuddin Abbas giving insight into the legislative agenda being developed.
This assembly is a citizens' parliament. In that regard, the Committee on Legislative Agenda will engage all members through appropriate platforms to develop a citizens' legislative agenda.
The Speaker announced Representative Julius Ihonveri of the APC from Edo State as House Majority Leader and Representative Kingsley Chinda of the PDP from Rivers State as House Minority Leader alongside other principal officers. 2 motions focus on education, one seeking to investigate alleged misappropriation of 2.3 trillion naira generated from tertiary education tax, and another seeking introduction of leadership training into the curriculum of Nigerian schools at all levels were deliberated upon.
If urgent steps are not taken to investigate the allegations, the decay of the tertiary education system will continue to increase.
In consideration of other motions, the House resolved to intervene in the bickering between the Force Headquarters and the Police Service Commission over police recruitment exercise, as well as the need to commence high-level diplomatic engagements towards recharging the Lake Chad Basin.
Restoring the lake will not only help revive fishing and other aquatic resources industry, but also open up new opportunities for enhanced national security.
You and Your Reps later spoke with the member representing Ihiala Federal Constituency, Paschal Agbodike, to shed light on the moribund Osakwa seaport in Anambra State.
Ihiala is one of the oldest local governments in Nigeria. A very large local government. Since the creation of a local government system in Nigeria, most of the local governments have gotten between 1 or 2 more local governments as created by the federal government. But Ihiala still remain one. So that's why we have Ihiala Federal Constituency as one local government, one federal constituency. In that Ihiala local government, we have boundaries with the Imo State and the other part of Anambra, Obaru, among others. The Osakwa seaport has been a seaport that has been serving the people of eastern Nigeria, both even the southeast and south-south in the maritime transportation. But since after the Civil War, that Osakwa seaport has been abandoned. It has gone moribund. Nothing is happening there again. The seaport, we know the importance of it. That is why you won't be surprised that most of the southeastern businessmen and women, they're all doing their businesses outside the southeast. It's because of the absence of that seaport. My brothers, it will interest you to know that this Osaka seaport is even less than 18 nautical miles to the Atlantic Ocean in terms of shipping goods from other countries. It can only take a ship 10 days to land from China to Anambra State, to Nigeria. It is a very important seaport that is calling for government attention. If properly harnessed, the potentials we have in that seaport is being carried by Orasi River. That is why I made my motion calling the federal government to dredge that Orasi River. It cut across Anambra, Imo, and River State, Bayelsa. Immediately I raised that motion. It has a very strong support by a senior colleague from Bayelsa State, Honorable Abati, having known the importance of that seaport that connects both Southeast and South-South. It will open, it is a major gateway for business in the Southeast and South-South, majorly. And too much dependence on oil and gas has, in a way, beclouded a major sense of judgment and reasoning to the previous administrations. They failed to diversify country's economy. A wise saying do say that it's not good for one to put one's egg in one basket. Let us diversify economy. It can generate billions of dollars in the maritime industry through that Osaka seaport. It's capable of creating more than 2 million jobs. Osaka seaport. So, and the adverse effect our people are seeing from there is that hoodlums, those areas are being occupied by hoodlums. Instead of bringing economic growth to Nigeria, the advert is what we are seeing. We are seeing the adverse effect of it. So we are calling on the federal government to do the needful. Because if the proceed is what Nigeria will reap, not only the people of the Southeast, it will be owned by Nigeria, not even our people, not the state-owned. One of the most important aspects of the motion in my prayers was that I called on the federal government, led by Sir Ahmed Tinubu, our president, to make sure that as he's submitting the 2024 budget to National Assembly, that they include dredging of Orasi River in the 2024 budget estimate. If we can do that, it will boost country's economy. The presence of this seaport in Ihala local government that will cut across Imo State will reduce the traffic in that Lagos seaport. And everybody, every zone will smile.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has urged the federal government to initiate a coordinated joint security operation that will address recurring cases of banditry in parts of the country. The Green Chamber also mandated an ad hoc committee.
4 out of 11 motions considered by plenary bordered on security concerns.
Incessant offensive by the bandit will lead to the lower payment productivity, which will aggravate the existing food insecurity in the communities.
The House resolves to urge the federal government to set up a well-equipped and properly motivated joint security task force.
A motion by Representative Victor Abang also drew attention to possible loss of 10,000 hectares of Nigerian territory to Cameroon if International Boundary Pillar 113A in Cross River State is not located by the Joint Technical Team of the Nigeria-Cameroon Mixed Commission.
If urgent actions are not taken by the federal government, the entire country will lose the good people of Danare, Biadra in Boki local government, and some parts of Obanliku, LG of Cross River State to Republic of Cameroon.
This constitutes a human rights emergency, if I may say so, because treaties can be reviewed. These people have lived here for many, many years and centuries.
And the House of Representatives has received a formal request from President Bola Tinubu seeking the legislature's confirmation of the appointments of Chief of Defense Staff and Service Chiefs. Speaker Tajuddin Abbas read the President's request on the floor of the House.
Received a message from
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu noted in his letter that speedy confirmation of the appointments of the new service chiefs is necessary to boost internal security.
This informed the review of our defense architecture and appointment of new leaders to work in synergy with one another to achieve the level of optimal performance expected of the military. While I hope that the request will receive the expeditious consideration and confirmation of the House of Representatives, please accept, Right Honorable Speaker, the assurances of my highest consideration.
The House also adopted resolutions seeking an end to the spate of kidnappings and other forms of insecurity in parts of the country, particularly the southeast.
The bandits and criminal elements have forced the Nigerian military to close traffic on the Hube-Isochi road.
Acquire more combat helicopters so as to ensure proper surveillance of the entire areas of the southeast and Nigeria in general.
To urge Mr. President to use political intervention, diplomatic intervention, asking for his mercy to release Nnamdi Kanu to enable that zone to find a lasting peace.
Following public concerns, the House urged the Federal Ministry of Health and the Nigeria Center for Disease Control to take necessary measures to contain the outbreak of diphtheria and other related diseases in the country.
Diphtheria is a highly contagious vaccine-preventable disease. Make available the required vaccines in order to meet up the required demand. To take action and tackle the issue of open defecation.
A resolution on the implementation of the Students' Loan Act was adopted.
To constitute an ad hoc committee to convene a legislative summit on student loans and access to higher education with all stakeholders in the education sector.
19 bills passed first reading, including the Police Act Amendment Bill 2023.
And on the Legislative Terms and Tools segment, we take a look at executive communication. What does it mean and what is the scope? Chair of the House Committee on Rules and Business in the 9th House, Abubakar Fulata, will provide answers.
Whenever the president is presenting a bill, he writes a letter attached to a bill to Mr. Speaker, or he wants to come and address a joint session of the House. He writes a letter which will now be formally presented to Mr. Speaker. The Speaker now immediately House starts sitting. Mr. Speaker will now read aloud the communication, the letter, so addressed to the House, to the hearing of all members, and then it will be noted. If it is one that requires giving Mr. President time, then President will be given time to appear before, or normally the President fixes his time. I would like to come and address a joint session on so date. And then the South will now suspend some of its routes to allow outsiders to the House. Once you are not a member, you are an outsider. We have to suspend our rules to allow you in. So, motion will be moved to that effect by the majority leader, seeking for suspension of our rules to allow outsiders to come.
Now, that the federal government has removed fuel subsidy is no longer news. But what do the people expect from government to cushion the effects? We asked a cross-section of Nigerians on the streets of Abuja, and here's what we got.
We believe if government manage it very well, it will be good for us. But there's something government is supposed to do, which El-Rufai did initially. El-Rufai brought a lot of buses during his time in FCT here and put it in the different routes. And it was very helpful to civil servants then. If government can borrow a leaf from there and fleet buses, these big buses everywhere, with their own subsidized price, I think the masses, not only the civil servants, even the masses will enjoy it.
But I think the government should put some measures in place to help us deal with the effect of fuel subsidy in general. Because the minimum wage is still the same price and the cost of living is very high.
They should start early because they have not started putting a measure to curb the difference in price and rising cost of commodities. So they should hasten up whatever measure they can put because the essence of government is to be able to curb every lapses.
My advice to government is that if they can do something to bring the prices down that can be affordable for people, because it has really even affected some people. They are not able to go to work.
They should bring down the price for us, the masses, so that we can benefit and then we can run our day-to-day activities.
You and Your Reps has been speaking with the member representing Anyocha Oshimili Federal Constituency of Delta State, Ngozi Okolie, on his legislative agenda. He also has a say on some issues of national importance.
For starters, the Washuku water project, we are virtually completed, but it needs to be piped to the different cities. And they've done almost 70-80% of the job. So I pray that we can be able to push for the remaining ones to be done. And virtually every village in Metro Shimili need iron stations. So we'll try as much as possible to see if we can bring push a college of education for SLOP, a university for Salva, and maybe a polytechnic for Idumuje or one of those areas, so that at least everybody would have an institution close to home. And of course, there are several other things that as time goes on, we see the needs of our people, but definitely we'll try to help the women who are traders in the market to see how we can open a small microcredit finance organization for them to source funds for small trades so that with little or no interest, they'll be able to trade better and help their families. First and foremost, I think the country is very much divided. I think we'll try as much as possible to fight for the unity of the country. Everybody in the National Assembly represents Nigeria in total, so it's to unite the membership. If we can unite the membership of National Assembly and respect every member, I think we have brought respect to the entire Nigeria. And then we need to strengthen our electoral laws and the institutions to have more respect. Left to me, I think there's a very, very big gap in the electoral managers. And if we don't strengthen it and make sure elections are virtually respected in Nigeria, I think it's very difficult for these people to come out and vote again. The elections have come and gone. There's still several litigations in court. I think there's still room for serious strengthening of INEC and institutions that will help INEC perform well. It should not be survival of the fittest or survival of the fondest. I think we should try as much as possible to make election go back to the people, where the people decide absolutely. As the people decide, they'll be happy with whoever is leading them and be able to understand the person they are put in power. This subsidy thing, I don't know where it will end. That's why I support the president to remove it once and for all, and they surely tell us that it's been removed. Because and since I've known about petroleum price, there's always been this issue of removal of subsidy from 2 naira or 2 kobo to 50 kobo, and now petrol is about 530 naira. So when will they remove our end? That's what I'm asking. Because if you tell us that when it was 3 naira, you removed subsidy, or tried to remove subsidy, and then it went on to 6 naira, 11 naira, 50 kobo, 65 naira, 95 naira, and we're still talking about subsidy. And people begin to doubt if there's really any subsidy. So I think if they can actually fix our refineries and then let us refine our own oil without being in competition with any private marketer, I think it will help a lot to reduce the price of oil. I know that the 530 whatever naira or 500 plus naira as fuel is being sold now across the country will definitely come down when the competition starts. Already people are getting used to the fuel price now. People are not complaining. That's the pure Nigerian. But irrespective of people not complaining, we still feel the pain. There's nobody that does not feel the pain. Both the rich, the poor, and the middle class. Everybody feels the inch of the fuel subsidy import removal. So I pray that we get used to it, and I hope and pray that the price will come down so that the people on the streets would actually do it. Because it's virtually affected all prices. Things that used to cost 1 naira are probably now about 6 naira, 1,000 naira. So I think the earlier we tackle the effects of the price and fuel subsidy removal, the better for everybody. Because now the cost of transport is way too high, and people have to move around. So if we can increase the mass transit, I hear some private bankers or industries donated some buses, which we have not seen anyway, and 100 buses would do nothing to Nigeria as a whole. So I think we should try as much as possible concentrating on a public transport system, because in a place like Europe or America, where they have good public transport system, you see that people don't usually drive their cars often like we do in Nigeria. And it's if we have good transport system, good and reliable transport system, I think the effects will drastically reduce.
Well, we'll see what it is when government unveils its plans in that regard. Thanks for your time. You and your reps returns sometime next week with another package. I am Victor, as will join us again.